The vast emptiness of space rippled as the Galactic Empire's fleet dropped out of hyperspace, their sleek ships gleaming against the backdrop of Earth's blue marble. Admiral Zaxlor, a towering figure with iridescent scales and piercing yellow eyes, stood on the bridge of the flagship, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. Primitive World 3578. Designation: Earth, his second-in-command reported. Scans indicate rudimentary technology, no spacefaring capabilities detected. Zaxlor's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his species. Excellent. Another easy conquest for the glory of the Empire. Little did the Admiral know that 250 miles below the surface, deep within a sprawling underground complex, Earth's Unified Defense Council was already enacting their long-prepared contingency plan. General Maria Chen, her face illuminated by the glow of holographic displays, addressed the assembled world leaders. Operation Pandora is now in effect. May our deception be our salvation. Across the globe, hidden technology powered down. Stealth fields activated, concealing advanced facilities. Millions of citizens, trained for this very moment, donned the guise of a pre-spaceflight civilization. As the first Imperial shuttles breached the atmosphere, they were met not with resistance, but with a carefully orchestrated show of primitive awe and fear. In major cities, people ran screaming or fell to their knees in supplication. Outdated military vehicles rolled out, only to be effortlessly disabled by Imperial energy weapons. In Washington, D.C., President Adama Okonkwo stood before the Capitol building, surrounded by a hastily assembled group of world leaders. Their faces betrayed a mix of genuine anxiety, for the stakes were indeed high, and well-rehearsed submission. Admiral Zaxlor's shuttle landed with a hiss of hydraulics. As he emerged, flanked by guards, President Okonkwo stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Greetings, mighty visitors from the stars," Okonkwo began, his voice carrying the perfect blend of reverence and fear. "We welcome you to Earth and humbly offer our allegiance to your great empire." Zaxlor's translator processed the words, and he let out a booming laugh. "Wise choice, Primitive. Your world is now part of the Galactic Empire. Serve well, and you may yet earn the right to call yourselves civilized." As the Admiral turned to issue orders to his troops, he missed the brief flash of defiance in Okonkwo's eyes. Over the next few days, the Empire began its standard colonization procedure. Troops were deployed globally, setting up outposts and beginning resource extraction operations. Humans were rounded up for processing, categorization, and assignment to labor details. Underground, in the hidden heart of Earth's true civilization, banks of quantum computers worked tirelessly. Every scrap of data gathered from the Imperial forces was analyzed, every piece of technology scrutinized. Earth's scientists and engineers worked around the clock, comparing the alien tech to their own advanced systems, searching for weaknesses and advantages. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Division, pored over the latest data streams. "Their FTL drive is impressive, but inefficient," she murmured to her team. "And their energy weapons. We theorized something similar decades ago, but discarded it in favor of our graviton pulse technology." Across the complex, in a vast hangar hidden beneath the Mariana Trench, Fleet Admiral Joao Silva inspected Earth's secret armée. Ships of impossible configurations hung suspended in zeroed fields, spheres, twisted Mobius strips, and fractal patterns that seemed to bend space itself. "Soon," Silva whispered, running a hand along the hull of the nearest vessel. "Soon we'll show these Imperial bastards what humanity is truly capable of." But not everyone was content to wait. In a small town in the American Midwest, a group of civilians struggled to maintain their act of subservience. Tom Hawkins, a former engineer now posing as a simple farmer, watched with clenched fists as Imperial troops ransacked his community. "We should fight back," he hissed to his wife, Sarah. "We have the tech. Why are we letting them treat us like animals?" Sarah gripped his arm tightly. "You know why. The whole world's counting on us to play our parts. One slip-up could ruin everything." Their hushed argument was interrupted by the heavy footsteps of an approaching Imperial patrol. The couple quickly adopted poses of cowering submission as the aliens passed. Meanwhile, in low Earth orbit, Junior Science Officer Creela found herself increasingly puzzled by her observations of the planet below. Something about the humans' behavior didn't quite add up. "Sir," she addressed her superior, Commander Vex, "I've been analyzing the data from our initial scans, and there are some anomalies." Vex barely glanced up from his console. "Explain." Creela hesitated, knowing how outlandish her suspicions might sound. The atmospheric composition shows traces of industrial pollutants consistent with a much more advanced civilization. And the planet's albedo. There are fluctuations that suggest large-scale engineering projects, possibly underground. Commander Vex finally turned to face her, his expression a mix of amusement and annoyance. "Officer Creela, need I remind you that we have conquered hundreds of worlds? Our technology is infallible. These humans are primitives, nothing more. I suggest you focus on your assigned duties and leave the larger strategic concerns to your superiors." Chastised but unconvinced, Creela returned to her station. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. Her suspicions were not entirely unfounded. Deep beneath the surface, in hardened bunkers and sprawling underground cities, the bulk of Earth's population went about their daily lives. Children attended schools where they learned advanced physics alongside lessons on maintaining their primitive cover identities. Engineers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer every scrap of Imperial tech they could get their hands on. In one such facility, Dr. Tanaka made a breakthrough. "We've cracked their communication encryption," she announced to the jubilant cheers of her team. "We can now intercept and understand all Imperial transmissions without detection." The news spread quickly through Earth's hidden command structure. In the war room, General Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Excellent work, Doctor. This will give us a significant advantage when the time comes to reveal ourselves." But even as humanity's leaders celebrated this victory, challenges arose on the surface. In Beijing, a group of resistance fighters, unaware of the greater plan, launched an ill-fated attack on an Imperial outpost. Their weapons, deliberately downgraded to maintain the ruse, proved ineffective against the aliens' armor. The incident forced the hand of local operatives. Lei Wang, a high-ranking member of Earth's intelligence service posing as a lowly translator, had to think quickly to prevent a wider crackdown. Approaching the Imperial commander, Lei adopted a servile posture. "Great One, please forgive the foolishness of these few. They do not represent our people. Allow me to suggest a public demonstration of Imperial power to quell any further thoughts of resistance." The commander, flattered by Lei's subservience, agreed. The resulting display of Imperial might, a star destroyer vaporizing an uninhabited island, served to reinforce the illusion of humanity's helplessness, while simultaneously providing Earth's hidden sensors with valuable data on the Empire's weapon systems. As the first month of occupation drew to a close, Admiral Zaxlor prepared his initial report to Imperial High Command. Planet Earth, designation P3578, has been successfully integrated into the Empire. The native species, while primitive, shows potential for useful labor. Minimal resistance encountered. Resource extraction proceeding ahead of schedule. Zaxlor allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Another seamless conquest for the Empire. Yet as he ended the transmission, a nagging doubt crept into his mind. Everything had gone almost too smoothly. In all his years of expanding Imperial territory, he had never encountered a species so compliant. Shaking off his concerns, the Admiral retired to his quarters. The humans were simply primitive, he assured himself. What possible threat could they pose to the mighty Galactic Empire? As Zaxlor drifted off to sleep, he remained blissfully unaware of the vast network of advanced technology humming beneath his feet, or of the fleet of ships beyond his wildest imagination waiting in the shadows. Earth's great deception held firm, But the day of revelation drew ever closer. 3 months into the occupation, Earth's elaborate charade was holding strong, but the strain of maintaining the deception was beginning to show. In a bustling marketplace in Mumbai, Dr. Aisha Patel, a renowned quantum physicist now posing as a fruit vendor, bit her lip in frustration as she haggled with an imperial overseer. "Please, Great One," she pleaded, her voice carefully modulated to hide her true intelligence. "These mangoes are all I have to trade for medicine. My child is sick." The overseer, a brutish creature named Gorlak, sneered. "Your concerns are irrelevant, human. The Empire's needs come first." As Gorlak stomped away, Aisha's fingers twitched, longing to access the subdermal computer hidden beneath her skin. With a few commands, she could have brought the entire Imperial communication network crashing down. Instead, she forced a tear to her eye and continued her act. Nearby, hidden cameras captured the entire exchange. In the underground command center, General Chen watched the feed with a mixture of pride and concern. "Dr. Patel's performance is exemplary," she noted to her staff, "but I worry about the psychological toll this deception is taking on our people." Her aide, Colonel Takashi Yamamoto, nodded grimly. "There have been increasing reports of civilians struggling to maintain their cover. The engineering team in Berlin almost blew their cover last week when they instinctively tried to correct an Imperial technician's flawed calculations." Chen sighed. "Remind all operatives, no matter how tempting, we cannot reveal our true capabilities. The element of surprise is our greatest weapon." Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial flagship, Junior Science Officer Kreela couldn't shake her suspicions about Earth. She had taken to spending her off-duty hours poring over sensor data, looking for any anomalies that might explain the nagging feeling that something was amiss. As she reviewed atmospheric readings, a pattern caught her eye. Minute fluctuations in carbon dioxide levels suggested large-scale underground activity. But before she could investigate further, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. "Curious about the primitives, are we?" Commander Vex's voice dripped with sarcasm. "I thought I made myself clear about focusing on your assigned duties." Kreela straightened, her antennae quivering with a mix of fear and defiance. "Sir, I believe there's evidence of." "Enough." Vex cut her off. "Your obsession with these humans is bordering on insubordination. One more word about this, and I'll have you reassigned to waste management on a mining colony. Am I clear?" Kreela's shoulders slumped. "Yes, sir." As Vex stormed off, Kreela glanced back at her console. The data was there. She was sure of it. But without support from her superiors, there was little she could do but watch and wait. Back on Earth, the resistance movement that had caused trouble in Beijing was growing restless. Despite the best efforts of Earth's covered operatives to contain them, small pockets of humans who were unaware of the greater plan were beginning to organize. In a dimly lit basement in Paris, resistance leader Jacques Dupont addressed a group of determined-looking men and women. "We cannot stand idle while these aliens strip our world bare," he proclaimed passionately. "We must fight back. Show them that humanity will not go quietly into the night." Among the crowd, undercover agent Sophia Rousseau listened with growing alarm. She had been tasked with infiltrating the resistance to prevent exactly this kind of uprising. As Dupont outlined a plan to sabotage a nearby Imperial fuel depot, Sophia knew she had to act fast. Slipping away from the meeting, she activated her hidden communicator. "Control, we have a situation. The Paris cell is planning an attack. If they succeed, it could expose everything." In the command center, General Chen received the message with a grim expression. "We can't let this happen. Agent Rousseau, you're authorized to use whatever means necessary to stop the attack. But remember, we can't reveal our true capabilities." Sophia acknowledged the order and began formulating a plan. She would have to sabotage the Resistance's efforts without exposing herself or using any advanced technology. It would be a delicate balancing act. As tensions rose on the surface, Earth's hidden fleet continued to grow in strength. In a vast underwater hangar beneath the Pacific Ocean, Fleet Admiral Silva supervised the final assembly of humanity's latest weapon, a ship that could manipulate gravity itself. The Singularity engine is online, a technician reported. Gravitational field tests are exceeding all expectations. Silva allowed himself a small smile. Excellent. With this, we'll be able to turn the Empire's own mass against them. How long until the entire fleet is equipped? At current pace, we'll be ready for full deployment in 2 months, Admiral. Silva nodded, his expression turning serious. Let's hope our surface operatives can maintain the deception that long. Every day we buy is another day to prepare. The struggle to maintain Earth's facade was taking its toll not just on humans, but on the environment as well. In the Amazon rainforest, vast swathes of trees have been cleared to make way for imperial mining operations. The destruction pained Dr. Carlos Mendoza, an ecologist now posing as a local guide. As he led a group of imperial surveyors deeper into the jungle, Carlos fought to keep his expression neutral. These aliens were destroying irreplaceable ecosystems, all in the name of resource extraction. It took every ounce of his willpower not to reveal the hidden preservation technologies that could have restored the forest in a matter of days. Primitive, one of the surveyors barked, snapping Carlos out of his thoughts. What's that up ahead? Carlos squinted in the direction the alien was pointing. Through the trees, he could make out the dim glow of lights that shouldn't be there. His heart raced as he realized what it must be. Another group of resistance fighters, hiding out in the jungle. Thinking quickly, Carlos forced a look of confusion onto his face. I not know. Great Sky Lord. Maybe, swamp gas. Or spirits of forest. He waved his hands in what he hoped was a suitably superstitious manner. The surveyor scoffed. Primitive superstitions. We'll investigate ourselves. Lead on, guide. As they moved closer to the lights, Carlos' mind raced. He had to find a way to warn the hidden group without exposing himself. An idea struck him, born of desperate creativity. Suddenly, he stumbled and fell, letting out a yelp of pain. Ow! Snake bite me, he cried, grabbing his ankle. Very dangerous snake. We must go back. The surveyor team leader looked skeptical, but as Carlos continued to writhe and moan, the alien's resolve wavered. Fine, it growled. We'll return to base and send a proper security team to investigate. Can't risk losing our only competent guide in this green hell. As the group retreated, Carlos allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Crisis averted for now. But how many more close calls could they endure before their cover was blown? In orbit, aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zaxlor received a concerning report. Productivity in Sector 7 has dropped by 12% in the past week, his aide informed him. The human laborers seem to be falling ill at an alarming rate. Zaxlor's eyes narrowed. Ill? With what? Our medical teams are unsure, sir. The symptoms don't match any known human diseases in our database. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in irritation. Increase the work quotas. If they're too sick to work, replace them. We have a planet full of spare labor. As the aide hurried off to implement the orders, Zaxlor turned to gaze out at the blue-green planet below. For the first time since the occupation began, a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. There was something about this world, these humans, that didn't quite add up. But what? Little did the Admiral know. The illness spreading among the workers was a carefully orchestrated ploy. Earth's hidden medical teams had developed a harmless but convincing virus designed to slow production without raising too much suspicion. As Part 2 drew to a close, the delicate dance of deception continued. Humanity walked a tightrope, balancing between maintaining their primitive facade and preparing for the day when they would reveal their true strength. The Galactic Empire's grip on Earth seemed secure, but beneath the surface, the sleeping giant was nearly ready to awaken. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than anyone had anticipated. 6 months into the occupation, the Galactic Empire had organized a grand ceremony to celebrate the successful integration of Earth into their dominion. Little did they know, This event would mark the beginning of their downfall. In New York City's Central Park, now converted into a massive landing pad, imperial dignitaries from across the galaxy gathered. Massive holoscreens projected the scene to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. Admiral Zaxlor stood proudly on a raised platform, flanked by his top officers and a group of seemingly cowed human leaders. Today, we showcase the Empire's latest acquisition. Zaxlor's voice boomed across the park. Behold, the primitive humans, now productive members of our glorious. His words were cut short by a deafening rumble. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble, and gasps of shock rippled through the crowd as the earth itself seemed to split open. From the chasm, a sleek, impossibly advanced vessel rose into the air. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent energy field, defying the laws of physics as understood by the Empire. And it wasn't alone. All across the globe, similar ships burst from hidden hangars, from beneath the oceans, from mountain ranges, from the heart of bustling cities. In orbit, the Imperial fleet found itself suddenly surrounded. Ships of human design, far more advanced than anything the Empire had ever encountered, materialized from behind cloaking fields. Aboard the flagship, alarms blared as panicked officers rushed to battle stations. "Admiral," a young lieutenant cried out, his voice cracking with fear. "We're detecting thousands of vessels. They're everywhere." Zaxlor stood frozen, his mandibles slack with disbelief. How could this be possible? These were supposed to be primitives, barely out of their stone age. On the ground, the cowed human leaders straightened, their demeanor changing in an instant from submissive to commanding. President Okonkwo stepped forward, his eyes blazing with long-suppressed defiance. "Admiral Zaxlor," he spoke, his voice carries clearly across the suddenly silent park. "For 6 months, we have endured your occupation. We have watched you plunder our resources, mistreat our people, and dismiss our worth. Today, that ends." As if on cue, the holoscreens flickered, and the face of Fleet Admiral Joao Silva appeared, broadcast simultaneously to every Imperial communication device across Earth and the nearby fleet. "This is Admiral Silva of the Earth Defense Force," he announced, his tone steely. "Your reign of terror ends now. Surrender your forces or face the consequences of underestimating humanity." Chaos erupted. Imperial soldiers reached for their weapons, only to find them suddenly inert, disabled by hidden EMP devices. The human crowds that had been gathered to witness their own subjugation shed their simple garments, revealing advanced exosuits underneath. In orbit, the battle began in earnest. Imperial ships fired their energy weapons, only to watch in horror as their beams were absorbed or redirected by the human vessel's advanced shielding. The Earth fleet responded with weapons beyond the Empire's comprehension. Gravity beams that crushed smaller ships like tin cans, phase-shift torpedoes that bypassed shields entirely, and swarms of AI-driven microdrones that overwhelmed point defense systems. Back in Central Park, Admiral Zaxlor found himself surrounded by a squad of humans in powered armor, their weapons trained on him. President Okonkwo approached, flanked by General Chen and Dr. Tanaka. "How?" Zaxlor managed to croak. "You were primitives. We scanned your world." Dr. Tanaka allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "Your scans showed you exactly what we wanted you to see. Admiral, we've been preparing for this day for decades." General Chen added, "Did you really think a species capable of splitting the atom would be so easily cowed? We chose peace, Admiral, but we never stopped advancing." As the human leaders escorted the captured Imperial command staff to a secure facility, the battle raged on in the skies above. Earth's hidden fleet, commanded by Admiral Silva, executed maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. Ships phased in and out of normal space, outflanking the rigid Imperial formations. Aboard the Earth flagship, Humanity's Hope, Silva watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Target their command and control nodes," he ordered. disrupt their communication, and this battle ends even faster. Meanwhile, on the Imperial flagship, Junior Science Officer Kreela found herself thrust into an unexpected role. With the senior command in disarray, she was one of the few remaining officers with a clear head. "We need to retreat," she shouted over the chaos on the bridge. "We're outmatched and outgunned. If we stay, we'll be destroyed." Commander Vex, his earlier arrogance replaced by panic, turned on her. "Retreat and face the Emperor's wrath." "Never. We'll fight to the last ship." Kreela's antennae twitched in frustration. "Sir, with respect, that's suicide. We have a responsibility to save as many lives as we can. We must withdraw and warn the Empire of Earth's true strength." For a moment, it seemed Vex would refuse. But as another volley of human weapons tore through their fleet's defenses, his resolve crumbled. "Fine," he spat. "Give the order. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace." As the remnants of the once mighty Imperial fleet fled, cheers erupted across Earth's cities. Centuries of hidden technological advancement, decades of careful planning, and months of nerve-wracking deception had paid off. Humanity had not only survived its first contact with a hostile alien empire, but had emerged victorious. In the aftermath of the battle, as the adrenaline began to fade, the true magnitude of what had transpired began to sink in. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy at large, and there would be no going back. President Okonkwo addressed the world, his voice thick with emotion. "My fellow Earthlings, today marks a new chapter in human history. We have cast off the chains of oppression and shown the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. But our journey is far from over. The Empire will return, and we must be ready." Around the globe, hidden advanced infrastructure began to emerge. Gleaming cities rose from underground bunkers, and orbital habitats decloaked in Earth's orbit. The facade of a primitive world fell away, revealing a civilization poised to take its place among the stars. Dr. Tanaka and her team worked tirelessly to integrate the captured Imperial technology with Earth's own advanced systems. "Their FTL drive is fascinating," she mused as she pored over the schematics. "Inefficient compared to our fold space technology, but it could lead to some interesting hybrid designs." General Chen, meanwhile, focused on fortifying Earth's defenses. "We've won the battle, but the war is just beginning," she reminded her staff. "The Empire won't take this humiliation lying down. We need to be prepared for their retaliation." As the day drew to a close, Admiral Silva stood on the observation deck of Humanity's Hope, gazing down at the blue marble of Earth. A sense of pride swelled in his chest, tempered by the weight of responsibility. They had protected their home, but in doing so had painted a target on their backs for the entire galaxy to see. "Admiral," his XO approached, tablet in hand. "We're detecting unusual activity at the edge of the solar system. It appears the news of our victory is spreading faster than we anticipated." Silva nodded gravely. "It seems our little deception has had far-reaching consequences. Send out the first contact diplomatic teams. It's time for humanity to properly introduce itself to the galaxy." As the Earth fleet moved to secure their solar system, the message of humanity's triumph raced across the stars. In the courts of the Galactic Empire, panic set in as the implications became clear. On oppressed worlds throughout Imperial space, hope began to stir. And in the vast, unknown reaches of the galaxy, ancient powers turned their attention to the upstart species that had dared to challenge the established order. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope in subjugated species and sending shockwaves through the Galactic Empire's bureaucracy. As humanity pushed outward, securing its solar system and establishing diplomatic channels, the repercussions of their actions reverberated through the cosmos. On Silox Prime, capital world of the Empire, Emperor Zorn XXII raged in his throne room. Holographic displays showed the extent of the disaster. A third of the Imperial fleet destroyed or captured, Earth's solar system now an impregnable fortress, and reports of unrest on a dozen worlds. Incompetence, the Emperor roared, his tentacles writhing in fury. How could our mighty empire be humiliated by a backwater world of primitives? Grand Vizier Klex, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate exosuit, attempted to calm his liege. My Emperor, preliminary reports suggest the humans have been concealing their true technological capabilities for centuries. Silence. Zorn interrupted. I want every available ship mobilized. We will crush these upstart humans and make an example of their world. As the Imperial war machine lumbered into action, Earth's leaders knew they had limited time to prepare. In a secure bunker beneath Geneva, the newly formed Terran Alliance Council convened its first emergency session. President Okonkwo addressed the assembled world leaders. We've struck the first blow, but the real fight is just beginning. We need to leverage our advantage while we still have it. Admiral Silva's hologram flickered to life. Agreed. Our long-range sensors have detected significant Imperial fleet movement. They're gathering a force that dwarfs what we faced during the liberation. Dr. Tanaka interjected, her eyes gleaming with excitement. But we have something they don't. Innovation. The integration of our tech with captured Imperial systems has yielded promising results. We're on the verge of a breakthrough in quantum entanglement communication. General Chen nodded approvingly. Instant, untraceable communication across vast distances. That could be a game changer. But we need more than just tech. We need allies. The Council murmured in agreement. Humanity couldn't stand alone against the might of an entire galactic empire. They needed to find friends among the stars. Meanwhile, on distant worlds, the seeds of rebellion began to take root. On Novus Arcadia, a lush garden world long oppressed by Imperial rule, resistance leader Zora Kovoth watched grainy footage of Earth's ships decimating the Imperial fleet. If the humans could do it, so can we, she whispered to her gathered followers. The assembled Arcadians, a species of photosynthetic humanoids, rustled their leaf-like hair in agreement. Zara turned to her chief strategist. Contact the Terrans. Tell them we want to join their fight. Similar scenes play out across a dozen worlds. Species that had long suffered under Imperial rule saw in humanity a beacon of hope, a proof that the seemingly invincible empire could be defeated. But not all alien races viewed Earth's emergence with optimism. On the desert world of Drath, the Council of Elders convened in their subterranean chambers. Elder Castor, his scales shimmering in the bioluminescent light, addressed his peers. The humans are a threat to the established order. If they topple the Empire, the power vacuum could plunge the galaxy into chaos. Perhaps, Elder Sylvana countered, her forked tongue flicking thoughtfully. Or perhaps they represent an opportunity. The Empire has long blocked our expansion. With their attention divided, the Drathian debate raged on, mirroring similar discussions in 100 alien capitals. Earth's emergence had upset the delicate balance of galactic politics, and every species was scrambling to adapt. Back on Earth, the war effort was in full swing. Shipyards that had been hidden beneath the oceans and deep within asteroids now worked at full capacity, churning out vessels that merged human ingenuity with reverse-engineered Imperial tech. In a sprawling facility beneath the Marianas Trench, Dr. Tanaka put the finishing touches on humanity's newest weapon. The quantum entanglement communicator is ready for field testing, she announced to the gathered military observers. Admiral Silva stepped forward, his weathered face etched with both excitement and concern. Excellent work, Doctor. If this performs as expected, we'll be able to coordinate our forces instantaneously across the battlefront. The Empire won't know what hit them. But even as humanity prepared for war, diplomatic efforts continued. In a bold move, the Terran Alliance dispatched envoys to neutral and even some Imperial-aligned worlds, seeking to build a coalition. On the neutral world of Luminara, famed for its bioluminescent crystal forests, Earth's ambassador found herself in delicate negotiations. Ambassador Yuki Nakamura, a veteran diplomat with decades of experience in Earth's hidden extraterrestrial affairs department, faced the Luminoran conclave. Esteemed members of the conclave, Yuki began, her translator converting her words into the musical tones of the Luminoran language. Earth extends an offer of friendship and alliance. We stand at a crossroads in galactic history. Together, we can forge a new path, one of freedom and mutual prosperity. The Luminoran speaker, a being of pure light, pulsed with curiosity. Your words are compelling, Ambassador, but aligning with Earth would surely bring the Empire's wrath upon us. What assurances can you offer? Yuki smiled. More than words, honored speaker. We offer technology, protection, and a vision of a galaxy free from Imperial dominion. Allow me to demonstrate. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display, showcasing Earth's advanced defense systems and the schematics for clean energy technology that could revolutionize Luminoran society. As the diplomatic dance continued on 100 worlds, the first major battle of the war loomed. An Imperial assault force, comprising over 1,000 ships, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral Zexlor, a grizzled veteran hastily appointed after the disgrace of his predecessor, surveyed the tactical display. Launch fighters and begin the attack run. These humans may have caught us off guard once, but they'll soon learn the true might of the Empire. But as the Imperial fleet advanced, they found not a hastily assembled defense, but a carefully laid trap. Quantum mines, undetectable by Imperial sensors, detonated amidst their formation, sending dozens of ships spiraling into the void. Then, emerging from behind the cover of Jupiter and its moons, the Earth fleet engaged. Ships equipped with phase shift technology blinked in and out of normal space, striking at the enemy's flanks and vanishing before they could retaliate. Admiral Silva, coordinating the defense from humanity's hope, allowed himself a grim smile. "Spring the trap," he ordered. Suddenly, the space behind the Imperial Armada lit up as a second human fleet dropped out of fold space, catching the enemy in a devastating crossfire. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zexlor watched in horror as his carefully planned assault crumbled. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology, their tactics, it's like they've been preparing for this for centuries." As the battle raged, news of the conflict spread. On 1,000 worlds, beings gathered around holoscreens and information terminals, watching with bated breath. The outcome of this clash would shape the future of the galaxy. In the Imperial Palace on Silox Prime, Emperor Zorn received the first reports of the battle with growing dread. For the first time in millennia, the outcome of an Imperial campaign was in doubt. As Part 4 drew to a close, the galaxy held its collective breath. The human upstarts had proved themselves more than a match for the Empire's might. But the war was far from over, and the fate of countless species hung in the balance. The next moves made by Earth, the Empire, and the myriad other factions watching from the shadows would determine the course of galactic history for eons to come. The battle for Earth's solar system raged for days, a testament to the Empire's vast resources and humanity's technological ingenuity. As the conflict reached its climax, the stakes became clear to all observers. This was no mere border skirmish, but a fight that would determine the fate of galactic civilization. Admiral Silva stood on the bridge of humanity's hope, his eyes fixed on the tactical hologram. The remnants of the Imperial fleet were in full retreat, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams. "We've won the day," Silva murmured, "but the war is far from over." As if in response to his words, a priority communication came through. President Okonkwo's hologram materialized on the bridge, his expression a mix of triumph and concern. "Admiral, outstanding work," Okonkwo began. "But we have a new development. Our quantum entanglement network has picked up chatter from deep within Imperial space. It seems our victory has inspired others to action." Silva's eyebrows rose. "The oppressed species we've been in contact with." Okonkwo nodded. "And more. Dozens of worlds are in open revolt. The Empire is facing a full-scale rebellion on multiple fronts. The implications were staggering. What had begun as Earth's fight for survival had blossomed into a galaxy-wide revolution. The moment humanity had long prepared for had arrived, but the scale of it was beyond even their most optimistic projections. On Silox Prime, Emperor Zorn faced the grim reality of his crumbling empire. Reports flooded in from every sector. Shipyards sabotaged, supply lines disrupted, entire fleets defecting to the rebel cause. Grand Vizier Klex approached the throne, his energy form flickering with anxiety. "My Emperor, we must sue for peace, the humans and their allies." "Never," Zorn roared, rising from his throne. "I will not be the Emperor who lost the galaxy to a group of upstart primitives." But even as the words left his mouth, a new alert sounded. On the main view screen, a massive fleet appeared, dropping out of fold space at the edge of the Silox system. At its head was humanity's hope, flanked by ships of a dozen alien designs. Admiral Silva's voice boomed across all Imperial channels. "Emperor Zorn, your reign of tyranny ends today. Surrender, and we can begin building a new galactic order together. Resist, and you will fall." As Imperial defenders scrambled to respond, the Coalition fleet advanced. Earth vessels led the charge, their phase shift drives allowing them to dance between enemy fire. They were joined by the organic ships of the Arcadians, the crystalline frigates of the Luminarans, and war barges from 100 liberated worlds. On the streets of Xylox Prime's capital, the impossible happened. Citizens who had lived in fear for generations poured out of their homes, raising their voices in defiance of Imperial rule. The carefully maintained facade of total control cracked, then shattered. Aboard humanity's hope, Dr. Tanaka worked feverishly at her console. "Admiral," she called out, "I've isolated the frequency of the Emperor's personal shield generator. If we can get a clear shot." Silva nodded grimly. "Understood. All ships, focus fire on these coordinates. Let's end this." As the battle for Xylox Prime reached its crescendo, a subplot unfolded that would shape the future of the galaxy. Junior Science Officer Kreela, who had long suspected there was more to humanity than met the eye, found herself in a unique position. Having survived the initial Earth uprising, Kreela had spent months piecing together the truth about human civilization. Now, as her world crumbled around her, she made a fateful decision. Slipping away from her post, Kreela made her way to a secure data vault. With trembling hands, she downloaded centuries of Imperial secrets, atrocities committed, civilizations erased, and the true history of the galaxy that had been hidden from its inhabitants. As alarms blared and the palace shook from orbital bombardment, Kreela transmitted the data to the Earth fleet. "Let the truth be known," she whispered, before surrendering herself to a squad of advancing human marines. In the throne room, Emperor Zorn watched in disbelief as his loyal guards threw down their weapons. Grand Vizier Klex stepped forward, his energy form pulsing with resolve. "My Emperor," Klex intoned, "it's over. For the good of our people, we must surrender." For a moment, it seemed Zorn would resist to the bitter end. But as the sounds of battle drew closer and the weight of millennia pressed down upon him, the Emperor's tentacles drooped in defeat. "So be it," he whispered. "Let it be known that Emperor Zorn XXIA surrendered not out of cowardice, but out of love for his people." As news of the Emperor's surrender spread, scenes of jubilation erupted across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every conceivable form embraced in the streets, united in their newfound freedom. But for Earth's leaders and their allies, the real work was just beginning. In the wake of victory, representatives from hundreds of species converged on a neutral world to begin the monumental task of forging a new galactic order. President Okonkwo stood before the assembled delegates, his voice carrying the weight of history. "We stand at a crossroads," he began. "The old order has fallen, but what rises in its place is up to us. Will we repeat the mistakes of the past, or forge a new path of cooperation and mutual respect?" For weeks, debates rage. Some called for the complete dismantling of all centralized authority, while others argued for a strong federal system to maintain order. Earth's representatives, drawing on their own planet's long and sometimes painful history, advocated for a middle path. Finally, after marathon negotiation sessions and more than a few close calls, a consensus emerged. The Galactic Confederation was born, a loose alliance of sovereign worlds united by shared principles of liberty, justice, and scientific advancement. As the new order took shape, Earth found itself in an unexpected position. Having spearheaded the revolution, humanity was looked to for leadership, but the hard-won wisdom of centuries reminded Earth's leaders of the dangers of power. In a move that shocked many, Earth declined a permanent leadership role in the Confederation. Instead, they proposed a rotating council, with decisions made by consensus rather than decree. Admiral Silva, speaking before the newly formed Galactic Senate, explained the decision. "We fought not to replace one empire with another, but to create a galaxy where all species can thrive. Earth will always stand ready to defend freedom, but we will not rule over others." As the first year of the new era drew to a close, signs of a transforming galaxy were everywhere. Former imperial worlds blossomed with new ideas and rediscovered cultural identities. Trade routes, once tightly controlled, now flowed freely between star systems, and on the fringes of known space, joint exploration teams of multiple species pushed back the boundaries of the unknown. Yet challenges remained. Pockets of imperial resistance persisted in the outer reaches. Some species, long oppressed, struggled with their newfound freedom. And in the shadows, ancient powers that had watched the fall of the Empire began to stir, reassessing their place in this new galactic order. On Earth, as citizens marveled at the wonders of a truly open galaxy, leaders like Okonkwo, Silva, and Tanaka knew their work was far from over. They had won the war, but maintaining peace would require eternal vigilance. As the sun set on this new era, humanity looked to the stars not with fear or aggression, but with hope and determination. They had kept their light hidden for centuries, preparing for this moment. Now that light would help illuminate the way forward for all species as they stepped together into an uncertain but promising future. The galaxy had been forever changed, and at its heart stood humanity, no longer pretending to be primitive, but ready to take its place among the stars as defenders of freedom and catalysts of a new age of exploration and cooperation.